We all saw the headline. I mean, it was everywhere. JoJo Siwa, the queen of queer pop, the face of a generation, was suddenly all in with her straight friend from reality TV.
And it sent like a shockwave through Hollywood and her own community.
Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're taking a shortcut to being well-informed on a story that is so much more complicated than just a celebrity romance.
Yeah, that's our mission here. This is a deep dive into the intense emotional fallout, the pretty shocking identity pivot, and of course the age gap drama between JoJo Siwa and Chris Hughes. And all of this is drawn directly from the interviews and reports they've given.
So we're not just looking at a relationship timeline. We're really trying to understand the transition of a former child star fighting for her own autonomy.
And for her identity in the most public way you possibly can. We're going to unpack not just what happened, but why this relationship became such a lightning rod for controversy right from the start.
Okay, let's get into it. And we have to start where it all began, which was inside the controlled chaos of the celebrity Big Brother house in the UK. This was April 2025.
Right. And to really get the full picture, you have to look at who these two people were walking into that house. First, you have JoJo Siwa. She's 21.
But she's already this economic powerhouse. She built a billion-dollar business by the time she was, what, 15?
Exactly. Built on this very specific, very curated persona. And when she went in, she was publicly identifying as a lesbian and was in a relationship with her partner, Kath Ebbs.
And then you have Chris Hughes. He's 32, a veteran of UK reality TV. He's famous from Love Island.
And right away, people watching noted that 11-year age difference. It became a huge point of scrutiny later on.
But before anyone could even really spin a romance narrative, the entire house dynamic, and really JoJo's entire personal life, just got shattered by a confrontation.
With the 72-year-old actor, Mickey Rourke.
Yeah.
And this incident, it happened really early on, but it wasn't just some background drama. It was the emotional catalyst for everything that came next.
So what happened?
Well, on the second day, Rourke singles out JoJo. He goes up to her and asks her, pretty confrontationally, if she likes boys or girls.
And when JoJo confirmed she was gay, Rourke's response was it was shocking. He told her, if I stay longer than 4 days, you won't be gay anymore.
And he didn't stop there. He kept persisting, telling other housemates he was going to vote the lesbian out.
Wow.
Siwa said later she just felt frozen. She called his reasoning homophobic. And then it got worse. Rourke shouted the word fag across the yard.
No, he claimed he meant a cigarette, right? The British slang.
He did, but given the context and everything he just said, the intention felt pretty clear to JoJo. She was, visibly upset. She was crying.
So the show's producers did step in. Rourke got a formal warning for offensive and unacceptable language.
And he did eventually leave the show for further use of inappropriate language. But Siwa said the whole thing affected her even more than people know. She tried to gain some closure, deciding he must be a very hurt man, but that immediate trauma was really intense.
Okay, so here's the pivot. In the middle of all that high-stakes emotional distress, Chris Hughes, who she barely knew at this point.
Had just met, yeah.
He was the only one in the house to step in and defend her. He went right up to Rourke and told him, Mickey, you can't say that.
And then he went over to comfort JoJo. He said something like, crying is my favorite therapy, which in that moment is this massive act of allyship, especially when you're under constant surveillance on TV.
A huge act.
Exactly. And the viewers saw that. They praised him for it. But for JoJo, the personal effect was that this intense shared experience born from trauma and defense, it just fast-tracked their relationship. They skipped all the normal stages of friendship.
They went straight to what they called BFF status.
A deeply codependent one, yeah.
Yeah.
They were relying on each other for everything in that house. And that kind of bonding under pressure, it fundamentally changes a relationship.
But that platonic soulmate status was about to unravel, forcing JoJo to confront her identity and break up with her girlfriend at the show's after party.
And the fallout was, it was incredibly swift.
Yeah.
And very public. JoJo Siwa breaks up with her partner, Kath Ebbs, literally the moment she gets out of the house.
Her justification was that being in the house gave her time to think. A kind of internal reckoning.
She said she realized she was unhappy, that she'd been okay with things in her relationship that she should never have been okay with.
But the way it happened was just brutal. Kath Ebbs flew all the way to the UK for the after party to support her.
Only to get broken up with on the spot. Siwa admitted Kath just straight up asked her if she was happy, and she had to say no.
So Kath's reaction?
Well, it was public humiliation and betrayal. The report said she felt numb, and she pointed directly at JoJo's behavior in the house. sharing a bed with Chris, the physical affection, as the reason. It didn't matter if it was platonic or not.
And this whole pressure cooker environment, it also triggered a huge identity shift for Siwa publicly. She'd been identifying as a lesbian for a while.
Right, but inside the house, she realized that label felt too restrictive. She later said she felt so much pressure from within the community to stick with the word lesbian.
Which is a whole other conversation.
It is. She started saying she felt more comfortable switching letters to the Q for queer, or pansexual, or bisexual. Because, as she put it, sexuality is fluid.
And that's a key takeaway here for anyone listening. Siwa was actively rejecting that pressure to rigidly define herself.
Right. She was arguing that her identity was evolving. But of course, because she was immediately spending all her time with Chris, she had to deny he was the reason for the split.
Strategically, she had to. She insisted the realization she wasn't happy was all internal.
Which brings us to their media defense. As soon as the show ended, they do a joint interview on This Morning, and they're determined to frame their bond as completely platonic.
Hughes called it a soulmate friendship.
And Siwa doubled down, saying, "It is platonic. We have a lot of fun together."
But you have to ask, wasn't that whole platonic soulmate thing just a controlled narrative? Maybe even a bit of a lie to manage the public reaction?
It definitely felt like they were on the defensive right away.
Which just invites more skepticism later on.
Well, it raises a really important question about reality TV. They met on a reality show, so the relationship is automatically suspect to the public. Plus, Hughes has a history of these intense, high-profile reality TV relationships.
Right, with Jesse Nelson from Little Mix and that very messy split from Olivia Atwood after their spin-off show.
So they were fighting this built-in narrative that everything on reality TV is either fake or it's fleeting. They were trying to build this emotional defense against the critics before the relationship had even, officially started.
Trying to establish authenticity before anyone could question it.
Exactly. They felt they had to explain the intensity without confirming the romance. But, like you said, that defense didn't last very long, and it led to this whole new wave of criticism about the age gap and accusations of Bi-Erasure.
Yeah, that platonic soulmate status didn't even last a month. A few weeks after denying any romance, the story officially shifts. JoJo admits she was in pain from smiling so much because things with Chris had become romantic.
Which is such a fascinating quote, right? The joy was literally painful. She confirmed it pretty quickly, saying, "It's not platonic anymore, and I'm absolutely head over heels for him, and he's the same way."
And what's crucial is how Hughes solidified it. JoJo's working across the Atlantic, and he flies all the way to Mexico City just to surprise her.
Which led to a first kiss that she described as genuinely special. It felt like I was in a movie.
So if we connect this to the bigger picture, she was clearly all in.
Oh, completely. She described a level of certainty she'd never felt, saying, "I've never once questioned anything we had." And that kind of absolute language, it feels designed to push back against the public's skepticism.
But the backlash, of course, just doubled down. It focused right in on that 11-year age gap. JoJo at 21, Chris at 32.
And that became fuel for viral content.
I remember seeing that TikTok that put her on Dance Moms in 2016, right next to him on Love Island at the exact same time. It really drove home that uncomfortable context for a lot of people.
And on social media, critics were calling the age difference creepy. Now Hughes, who's been fighting trolls for years, he did not respond nicely.
He went savage. To one person who called it creepy, he replied, "I have friends who are 50 plus too, you weirdo."
And when other people kept at it, he just told them to piss off kindly. He wasn't trying to be polite. He was fiercely defending his territory.
But the identity backlash was maybe even harder for Siwa because it was coming from inside her own community.
Yeah, she talked about the hate she was getting from within the LGBTQIA plus community, saying, "It feels like my own family has turned a little bit."
And the core of that critique, for anyone who wasn't following the discourse, was this idea of bi-erasure.
Exactly. Bi-erasure is this idea that bisexuality or pansexuality is often invalidated or treated like it's just a phase.
Or that it's a stepping stone to being straight.
Right. In this case, critics were arguing that because she partnered with a man, she was somehow abandoning her queer identity.
Which she found really damaging. She argued that people were forgetting the umbrella is the LGBTQIA plus family, not the LG community.
And Hughes immediately stepped up as a very public ally against that specific critique. He clarified, she is bisexual. She's not now straight just because she's with me. He was emphasizing her identity was still valid.
Which is so important for her as she's navigating this. So what does this all mean for the JoJo Siwa brand, that billion-dollar empire?
It means her adult identity is now being defined by her willingness to fight for her personal life, even if that means sacrificing career opportunities.
This is her transition from a managed child star to an autonomous adult. She's prioritizing her own happiness over the commercial demands. She even said, "Nothing comes between us."
And she backed it up. She signaled she's willing to turn down huge jobs like maybe Strictly Come Dancing if it gets in the way of her relationship with Chris.
That's a profound statement. She's choosing emotional stability over more money and more exposure.
She's essentially rejecting the very brand machine she spent her entire childhood building. Her adult life is being defined by her saying no.
And Hughes seems to be just as committed long term. He said he tells her he loves her every day and that he wants a proper English wedding with her because they both want kids.
So this whole narrative, from the Rourke trauma that bonded them to the backlash over the age gap and Bi-Erasure, it has all forced JoJo Siwa to learn how to operate as an autonomous adult for the very first time.
So in a way, the relationship itself has become the vehicle for her personal freedom.
It really has.
We've just watched JoJo Siwa transition from a highly commercialized child star into an adult who is fiercely prioritizing her own happiness and her complex evolving identity over the constant demands of that brand she built.
So the final provocative thought for you to consider is this. In a world where every single move a celebrity makes is scrutinized, does choosing a relationship that causes immense public backlash, one that forces you to define yourself apart from your brand, does that ultimately become the most authentic statement of freedom a child star can possibly make?
A really challenging thought on fame and authenticity today. Thank you for diving deep with us. We'll catch you next time.